Welcome to Between Frets, a space where female musicians meet and discuss all things music. I'm your host, Genny Jam, and we are in season 4, video. That's right, all our podcasts are now taking place in video format. We do all our interviews through Zoom, so you'll get to see the guests, and some of them are even showing off their gear, which is kind of cool. So if you go on YouTube, go into the search, type in Fret Sisters, you'll see our page and hit subscribe. Now you can also hear us still in the audio format on all digital outlets wherever you get your podcast. Very cool, right? So I'm in the DC area and it's actually getting nicer out. It was kind of rainy this morning. We're in the middle of October and voting's in like a couple weeks. So we stress that you get out there and vote if you haven't done your early voting or your mail-in ballots. It's more than just voting for the president. You're voting for seats in the House and seats in the Senate, as well as your local jurisdiction. You're voting for stuff in there from your local government. So make sure, get out there and vote. November 3rd is the general election. So I'm going to talk about our first guest for Between Frets. We had the pleasure of talking with Nikki O'Neill. She's an Americana singer-songwriter. She plays a telly. She plays a mean telly. And she just dropped an album October 16th, which was Friday. So please go out there, go on her website. We'll have it in the show notes. Her website is nikkio'neill.com. You can purchase her album there, or you can go on any digital outlet and stream her music. Her new album is called World is Waiting. So definitely check her out. She's right behind me. She's got a beautiful telly, and I'm telling you, her tone is all that. She's got some really nice guitar work in there, and her vocals, her singing is phenomenal. So definitely check out her music. Drop a line to her, show support, because all season we have some great guests coming up. So next up is Nikki O'Neill. Peace and love. And we are back. I'm your host, Genny Jam, and we are so happy to welcome Nikki O'Neill. Now, Nikki is an American singer and songwriter and author, plays lead and rhythm guitar. She was featured in Guitar Player magazine in 2019 and also has a lesson channel on the True Fire website called Twang, Soul, and Rock and Roll. Her new album, World is Waiting, is due to release October 16th this year on the Blackboard record label. And you can hear her music on blues, Americana, and roots stations in the US and Canada, Europe, and Australia. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, what a nice introduction. Thank you.
Yes. Well,
see if I can live up to that.
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, you can. I mean, I heard some of your music, and actually I heard a lot of your music, and I just love everything about it. I just think
thank you.
It's so nice. And I know this time that we're living right now, it's just really great to be able to hear something like what you're putting out musically, and especially your guitar playing. And we'll get to that.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. So you're in the West Coast?
Yeah, I'm I've been based in Los Angeles for the last 15 years. And yeah.
That's nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so the weather's nice out there. I know I'm based in the East Coast in the DC area, so.
Okay. Yeah, no, we just, my husband and I just took a walk down to the beach, and it was really pleasant. It wasn't overly hot. It's still t-shirt weather. It's a little crazy like that, approaching mid-October, but yeah. It's nice. But I lived on the East Coast for several years in New York City. So, yeah. So you guys probably have a little bit of fall scenery now.
Yeah. It's been like cold, and then like a couple of days it was warm a couple of days ago. But it's getting into like fall, winter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I want to talk about your new album that's coming out soon, but I wanted to get into like more of like the style and your music and how that all came about. Like what made you, once you picked up the guitar, say, okay, yeah, I'm really resonating towards this style, and then just take it from there.
That's a good question, because I think, yeah, when I was younger, starting out, I tried all sorts of styles, which maybe is a healthy thing to do when you're a
Mm-hmm.
musician, to, try different genres, and you maybe play in cover bands, and you get to learn different genres, different
Mm-hmm.
songs that way. But I gotta say, I've always loved classic R&B and soul music, like a lot of stuff that came out of Memphis. And I probably have to thank my mom for that, because she was a huge Al Green fan. And so she had all of his albums. And so that was kind of like the soundtrack of my life as a little 5-year-old. And even though I didn't know anything about the musicians who played with him, I still thought, the drummer and everybody was playing, it was just the coolest sound I'd ever heard. And I still think that. So, and I guess, yeah, and my mom, she was also a big Santana fan. So all this kind of groove-based music was just part of my life, and I've always loved it, always gravitated to it. When Prince came along, I was really inspired by him. And but yeah, Carlos Santana and Prince, they're probably, my two major guitar influences, which was quite unusual when I grew up, because nobody my age, well, okay, Prince, there were Prince fans, but nobody cared about Santana. That was just like, what kind, who's that? What's that? And I remember my classmates' parents, they just laugh and say, oh, it's like hippie music.
Really?
So, but, but yeah, that was like a really natural part of my upbringing.
I
And so
mean,
I played in reggae bands and
oh, okay.
like rhythm and blues bands, more contemporary stuff. And it's always kind of been part of what I do.
I mean, the influences, at least that you got from your mom, like actually listening to that music, Al Green and Santana, like growing up, like that's just amazing, so your family was musically influenced you? Were they musical in any sense?
No, not at all. Nobody played any instruments. I know my mom wanted to be a singer, but for various reasons that didn't happen. And I think she told me that my grandmother had wanted to play guitar as a teen, but they were from Eastern Europe, and during the time when they were young, it was quite turbulent there politically. So. Getting music lessons, it wasn't a given. It was kind of seen as a bourgeoisie activity. So so for various reasons that didn't happen, and then they became parents, mothers, and who knows, the
Yeah.
dreams kind of stopped. So I'm, as far as I know, the first generation that really got serious about music and pursued it.
That's
But it's funny. Usually, you don't, your parents like a certain style of music, and you tend to rebel against it. And granted, there were things my mom listened to that I didn't care for very much. And I rebelled against, especially when I got into hard rock when I was 15, 16. But I'm really glad that she had such cool taste that she did, and it was very
yeah.
diverse. She listened to classical music, Chopin, and 60s pop bands. I was like everything, and it's helped me develop a love for songwriting. So even
Hmm.
before I played guitar, I was really into making up songs and writing songs, and think all this various music made me open-minded and
Hmm.
appreciate melodies and beautiful chord changes and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. The songwriting and like the vocals, your vocals, it seems like, saying that your mother, was into singing or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
did you develop that style? I mean, did you know like, oh yeah, I can sing, or was it just like fan?
Well, funny thing that you're saying the singing, because yeah, my mom was a big Barbara Streisand fan, so she would buy all these albums, and we would sit and we'd sing. And we'd sing along, and she would tell me if I try to mimic her signature vibrato, she said, "Nah, that's not how she does it." And, but yeah, I sang along with Baptists a lot. And, but funny enough, when I was 16, so I grew up, I was born in Los Angeles, but I grew up in Sweden, because my mom remarried with a Swedish guy. And so I spent much of my upbringing there. And when time came to attend high school, there was a music program, and I auditioned, I attended this program. And they were not into my singing at all. They, in fact, the voice teacher, she gave me she was ready to give me an F in singing. And I don't know why, because she was never there. She was gone for an entire year. So I don't even know how she would what she based that grade on. But I kind of, argued with the principal, and then she gave me the next worst grade. And I mean, I really love to sing. I did it at home, and I don't think I was that bad. What I was very shy and didn't have a lot of confidence. And I learned quickly in life that if you don't have confidence, then people will treat you like you don't. And if you start developing it, then same effect will happen. So I thought, well, okay, then I guess I will rather try to be confident and maybe even fake it until it's genuine a little bit. And so, yeah, singing, that's interesting because, yeah, I've always loved to do that. But, yeah, it didn't impress my teachers back then. But, whatever, that's then. But I kind of say that to people maybe who, are in the same situation as I was when I was younger, that you have to follow your own truth and keep developing your craft, because, if you have something that you love, then you gotta stick with it. And no matter what other people tell you, and, you'll get better, and, whatever people say to you, it'll change. And, but the most important thing is you do what you love. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Your guitar playing too. I mean, when I took a listen to it, I mean, it's just the tone, the playing, the techniques, the major scale. I think of it. I think it's major scale, right? But
it's probably, I'm pretty steeped in the major, minor, pentatonic. Yeah, I don't go very modal. I mean, I know what that is. I've definitely, I teach that stuff, but yeah, because of the rootsy and R&B influenced Americana style, it would feel kind of weird to do low Korean sweep picking arpeggios.
Exactly.
It's a little out of place.
Yeah. Yeah. The style, when you went towards that style, was it, did you take lessons, or were you more self-taught, or was it just kind of like?
I took lessons pretty early on. So the great thing in Sweden is there's subsidized music education, so you can get music lessons very cheap. And they often explain the Swedish pop miracle, the pop sensation, with all these people that write hits for Britney Spears or Backstreet Boys, and I mean the current pop artists now. There's a lot of Swedes that are churning out these pop hits, and and also all the metal bands that have come out of Sweden. They believe that one reason there's such a fertile ground for musicians is that there's subsidized music lessons. So I started when I was 16. I really wanted to start guitar when I was 10, because I saw my classmates, all the guys in school, took lessons, and they were talking about the records they bought and their guitar lessons. I thought, oh, that's so cool, I want to do that. But yeah, my mom said, no way. And so I begged and begged for 6 years. And then finally I got an acoustic guitar and I started taking lessons. And yeah, there's some part where I was self-taught, sitting and playing along to Santana and Prince records. That was definitely my own thing. Sitting at home and figuring out those songs. And at the lessons, it was other stuff. It was a little more classical kind of acoustic guitar techniques, finger picking. And then when I attended this music school, they were like a hardcore jazz program. So it was almost like, a bad thing to be a rock fan. Everybody was into fusion and Larry Carlton and the Yellow Jackets, and nothing wrong with that. But I never understood why there was this snobbery about music, but there was.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
Yeah, and it seems to be universal. It's like, because I can walk into a music school anywhere in the world, and the students, they all they're humming Charlie Parker tunes, and like nobody else does that. I mean, Charlie Parker's an amazing composer, but you don't hear people hum Scrapple from the Apple that much. But that's like a music school thing, and it's just hating on the rock. So the nice thing that I got out of music school was there was a lot of ear training and music theory. So the whole about chords and being able to tell if it's a major 7 or minor 7 or something like that. That was a really good thing. And even if I didn't think that I was going to become a jazz musician, I fell in love with the chords, the harmony. And I realized later when I listened to the Al Green albums or Stevie Wonder albums, oh, wow, that's those same kinds of chords. So that's what I got out of music school.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the chords and stuff, kind of going back to the R&B records and hearing all that stuff, especially like Al Green. And definitely your guitar style, like I can tell when I listen to your music that you had a lot of those chord colorings, mixed in with, the licks, the little twang and stuff. I love it. I mean,
well, thank you.
And I love your guitars, at least what I've seen. I mean, is it like, was it, were you like born into it? Like, were you like, wow, yeah, this is me. Like your fingers was like, yep, this is what I'm stuck to.
No, not at all. I mean, I definitely had the perseverance. I've been at it for so long where a lot of people would have given up. I don't feel that guitar came easy to me. Songwriting did. That was the thing. Singing, like the technique, especially singing and playing at the same time was like really hard. And I'd like beat my voice up singing 3-hour shows and not breathing because I'm strumming and trying not to screw up. But guitar, it hasn't come to me that easily, but kept at it, and learning the fretboard was incredibly helpful. I gotta say, to be able to visualize the guitar and things like that. Nowadays, I think I've brought it to a balance. And what I mean by that is trying to find a balance between the style of music that I write and that it's stuff that I can sing comfortably, and also that I can play it. Because those areas were kind of uneven, where I'll give you a good example. So I would have no problem writing like a high energy funk song with like really distorted guitar and, bold and brash kind of tone. But then when it's time for me to go into the studio, I can't sing like Shaka Khan or Betty Davis. I just don't have that kind of like belting, high energy voice like that. So it's taken some experimentation to make all three of them kind of play along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
your songwriting as well. With the music that you've written, stuff that's been out earlier. Because I went on the Spotify channel, by the way.
Okay.
I listened to
Thank you.
some of your work there, and really good. Just wholesome, just singing. Lyrics, music, and stuff like that. Like when you write a song, like, of course a songwriter takes it to my expression, whatever happened to me, who I broke up with, that kind of thing. Like, where do you find your muse or material to
my first records, I think everything was very autobiographical, so it was like always my experience, and then I realized I got tired of my own thoughts. So then I would allow myself to, if not get into character a little bit, then, maybe write to a song title if there's a subject that really intrigues me. And it might not be something that I've like experienced every single thing that happened in that song, but there's a sentiment or a feel that's there. There's maybe something that I experienced, but then I just, added other places, other people, other scenery.
Yeah, I think songwriting is like one thing. I think a lot of musicians, I guess, that don't write songs, or, to be able to like understand, like, it's the hook, it's the melody, how to get all that. Like when you think of a song, do you immediately go on your guitar? Do you go on a piano and kind of like, or do you sing a melody in your phone or something?
I do a little bit of both. They kind of all happen simultaneously. When I was writing earlier, let's say 10 years ago, or when I started writing, then it was very much based on the guitar started everything off. So it'd be like a good riff or an intriguing chord progression. Nowadays, I I often work together with a lyricist, because I write lyrics, and I've done that on the album, but they tend to be the hardest things for me to do, probably because I'm like too self-critical, and I just set the bar so high that it's impossible to live up to. And sometimes being bilingual and living in a different country, I can often struggle to find the right words. So then it's nice to collaborate with somebody, which I'm doing. His name is Paul Menser, and so we've been writing together in the last 2 albums. And it just helps the process be more productive, because otherwise maybe it would take 4 years between albums instead of 1 or 2.
Yeah.
As far as guitar goes, it can be an interesting chord progression or a good riff, but it can also be that Paul and I are bouncing lyrics back and forth, and when he sends me a lyric, a fragment or something, and I sense a rhythm in the words. This is like really flowing. It's like sits well vocally. It's like seems singable. Then I start hearing the music. And so, it all kind of happens simultaneously nowadays.
That's a good process when you get into that creative mode and something's sparking and you're like, wow, this is
it's so fun. And I also tell, because I've often gotten the question, do you have a process for writing? And I'll say, well, there is a common process, and that's like writing to a title. But it's really important for me to experiment and try other methods to invite inspiration in different ways, because I don't want to get formulaic, because that has happened, before, and I would hate for that to happen again. So, the title track of the song of this album, "World Is Waiting," for instance, I pulled out a Beat Buddy. It's one of those like stomp boxes that has a drum machine. And there was this little rhythm that was this little hi-hat thing. And it sounds cheesy. It's a little drum machine pedal. It sounds like a toy, robotic. But it kind of made me think of Prince. like his early Prince records, and he was such a genius at layering rhythms that were very contrasting.
Mhm.
So I played this thing and I thought, well, what happens if I play this kind of standard blues riff against it, but it's like a counter rhythm? I thought, oh yeah, I like that. This is cool. And then I, played it for my husband, who's played drums with me as long as we've been together, and he's in the band and on the record. And he's like, I don't know, man. It sounds kind of electronic and rigid. But it's like, no, I gotta, develop it. And I did. And I played it for Paul, my lyric partner. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of cool, but, it's short. It's just 2 bars. All right. And so I developed it. And once I had it, the intro, through all the way to the end, then I brought it to the band, and then we fleshed it out. And when the keyboard player started overdubbing his Wurlitzer, then like the whole song just got its identity right there and then. So yeah, experimenting is very important, I think.
Yes, definitely. And
there's a long answer to your question.
No, it was a great answer. It was very interesting. We can get to talk about, your release in October. Well, it is October, but it's in a few weeks or a couple weeks, right? Or next week? Actually, the 20th.
As we're speaking, so it's next Friday. It's next week. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just saw the date. I'm like, wait a minute, because I don't even know what year we're in, right?
Oh, yeah. No, it's easy to.
So you're due to release October 16th. Yeah. And we got the link from you. And so what you were talking about, this is where I'm like, we could talk about the guitars you use, the pedal. I mean, just you talking about what you just said is just interesting to me. You have, a few, actually a lot of good stuff in there as far as like some meaty licks, some, nice rhythms, beautiful vocals everywhere, some acoustic stuff, right?
Thank you. Yeah. I play all the acoustic guitars on that one too. So
yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about it or
sure. So in the last 3 years, my setup has been very minimal. It's basically a Telecaster with a maple neck, and it's got 60s twang pickups, the Seymour Duncan Antiquities, Antiquity 2 60s twang. That's what they're called. And I run the Tele into a Fender Deluxe Reverb 1965 reissue.
Ooh.
And I was so happy when I found that amp, because I couldn't find anything because my Tele's kind of bright. And I had other amps and it just sounded sterile. And I tried to use pedals and it just sounded plasticky or bright. And those pickups, they're not very high output pickups. So they're a little skinny for solos. But, somebody suggested, hey, this amp, you got to test it. I plugged it in and it was like love at first tone, And so that's pretty much what I'm using. I mean, on this album, there's no other pedals really. I mean, sometimes I can use a wah pedal. I have a pedal board. I've used that for other types of bands that I was in. I mean, I was in like a Black Sabbath tribute band for a short while.
Oh.
Yeah, I subbed. I just subbed, but it was enough that I flew out to Hawaii to do a couple of gigs and then did some shows in California. So it wasn't that for that long, but yeah, I still have all those pedals from then.
That's awesome.
Obviously the amp quite different. I mean, that's an SG and a Marshall. And so, but yeah, it's a very kind of classic R&B, twangy. So I still think I'm probably going to want to get a humbucker guitar. I don't have a Les Paul. I've tried a couple. And I might go for that. I'm not sure how it will work with this amp. So that's, another process, but I might need that for solos, just to get a little fuller little fuller tone, but I still like the warmth, and I'm probably not going to be doing a lot of effects. I kind of like the get your tone out of your
Yeah.
hands. And
Oh,
yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. The what kind of telly do you have? This is just my question for me.
Yeah,
But what
sure.
is it?
It's Mexican telly,
Oh,
Mex made, and it's from the 90s. I got it in 1998 or 99. I got it as a gift. It's actually, there's a fun story, if I can tell. I'll try
yeah.
to be concise. I did a little bit of work as a freelance writer, writing for Swedish newspapers. I would interview artists. And one day, this was when I lived in New York. So this is kind of how I made my living, was interviewing artists. And they said, "Hey, there's Bad Religion, the punk band. They're going to be somewhere in the East Village, and could you interview them? They're releasing an album." And so I went there, and to cut a long story short, it turned out that the drummer Bobby Shayer is a huge R&B fan, so that was like our conversation topic started there. And a day later he called me and he said, "Hey, do you have time to meet me at Matt Umanoff Guitar Shop?" It's one of those like longtime guitar stores in New York City. And so I met him there, and he got me a guitar, but he didn't tell me it was my guitar first. He said, "When I go on tour, I get guitars for my friends, and they become stewards for these guitars. And so whenever I'm in some city, and if I want to get, just play, then there's a guitar for me. So would you be the steward of my guitar?" "Sure, absolutely." So that's how I got that telly. And then, I took really good care of it. It was like, "Bobby, I would like to change the pick guard. Can I?" Always asked him for permission. And then finally, after, a couple of years, he said, "It's yours." Keep it.
Wow.
Yeah. And, I've played a lot. I mean, there's like a lot of wear and tear on the fretboard, and it's a
That's the
badge of
best.
honor.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I experimented with pickups because I didn't know much about pickups, when I got that guitar. And so there were some crazy ones. I put in hot rails, and it sounded like crap because it's maple neck. It's a bright guitar, and it was like really high output, shrill pickups. That combo didn't work. And there were other pickups too. But then finally I found the right ones with the Seymour Duncan Antiquities 60s twang. Yeah. And that's
Nice.
pretty much it. I haven't messed with it since. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about your True Fire lessons, to let our listeners know if they, don't have anything to do, let's go on True Fire and, try to maybe sign up and register.
Okay,
So,
yeah. So True Fire, it's one of the popular online channels for guitar education. So there's a lot of great people like Jennifer Batten is there, and Mimi Fox, and Robin Ford, and all kinds of amazing people. And there's a division of True Fire that's called Channels. And that's where, instead of just buying one course on a specific topic, if you like a particular instructor, then you can subscribe to their channel, and then they post lessons, every week or every other week. And so my channel, it's very reasonable. It's $5 a month.
$5 a month.
I started it in actually exactly a year ago, late October of 2019. And since then, I think I've got about 110 lessons there now. And it's called Twang, Soul, and Rock and Roll. And it's for those who are at an intermediate and also a beginner level, who are into the styles that go with Americana and rhythm and blues guitar. And there's a little bit of rock basics too. So there's everything from like Memphis Soul, how to play with double stops, playing with your triad voicings, your major, minor, pentatonic riffs. And right now I've got a little series that's about using the modes in songwriting.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, because when I learned about modes, I mean, it was in school and they were all talking about the improvisation aspect of it. And back then, I was young, it went way over my head. But I loved the sounds of them. And then when I met another teacher and he started talking about composition with the modes, I was like, oh, that I'm really interested in. And so in my series, I talk about that. I mean, there's the scale, but it's not so much about how you can solo and mix a Lydian. It's just kind of, okay, here's the scale, but here are different chord progressions and riffs that are very typical Lydian or Mixolydian or so that's there's like 110 lessons there, and I try to post every week or at least every other week if I'm busy.
Oh yeah, and we'll definitely put the links on the show notes so that our listeners can go if they're interested. They can check that out. They can go on your website.
Like I said, there's beginner series too. I got a beginner series in rock guitar, like rock rhythm and rock lead, and also in R&B guitar. So all these different cool little chords and stuff. There's beginner series for that.
Okay,
also.
That's great. Yeah. That's awesome. So, gosh, it was so great to hear about your music, and just everything. I want everybody next week, October 16th, to download. Where can we get your album?
Well, so it's available everywhere that you like to listen to music, but I got like a central hub. So if you go to nikkioneil.com, and that's NIKKIONEILL.com. So Nikki, like Nikki Sixx, the Motley Crue bass player, and O'Neill, like the surf brand or the playwright, whatever your reference is. So if you go to nikkioneil.com, and then if you like, the first thing you're going to see is like pre-add the album, and then if you want to, listen to my stuff on Spotify or Apple Music or Bandcamp or whatever, all the links are at the bottom of the homepage, so nice. You can easily find.
Okay, well, definitely we'll do that. Also, give us like your social media, where people can find you.
Yeah, all the social media links are there too. So if you go to nikkioneil.com, then you'll find my Instagram and my Facebook artist page and everything. Like I said, Bandcamp, the whole works. Okay. So that's probably the easiest way to find everything. Awesome. Right on the homepage.
Yeah, right on the homepage. So we'll put that in the show notes. Yeah. Well, Nikki, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, Fret Sisters Between Frets, and being part of our video podcast. Yay!
Thank you so much. I heard about you guys through Guitar Girl magazine, and I thought, this is cool. It's like a new community, and awesome. Yeah. And very, very exciting. And I love that there's the diversity of it, all kinds of players. That's important. And and thank you for all the great questions that you asked and for listening to the album. And
oh my gosh, it's a great
and the kind words. So.
Oh, definitely. And seriously, the guitar tone, for all you guitar nuts out there, you have to listen to this. It's like, so like the tone is just, for a guitarist, is like, woo, in the mind, it's like butter.
Oh my God.
When you said maple neck, I'm like, yeah, that maple neck.
Maybe, yeah, it might be that. It's also, it's me and there's another guitar player that we're in the band. So we were sharing the guitar duties, but also the guy who I co-produced the album with and who engineered it. I mean, he loves good guitar tone. And then when we mixed the album, I was really adamant that it's got to be a good mix because I haven't had much luck. You learn as you go, but I thought, damn it, it's got to sound good this time. Yeah. And so I got Ethan Allen, and he's a guitarist, and he works a lot with Ben Harper, and he did Mavis Staples' latest album. So I listened to that and I thought, oh, those are good tones. And so he also helped to really dial in some nice sounds. And Gavin Lurson did the mastering. He worked with Robert Plant and Alison Krauss and T-Bone Burnett. So yeah,
Wow.
I was in good hands when it comes to tone. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully when things open back up, we can catch you on tour, with your band.
Yes, I would love that.
When you come to the East Coast, definitely you'll get a visit from the Fret Sisters. And
I
so
would love that.
we're sparse all up and down the East Coast. So,
Oh, awesome.
but thank you again, Nikki, and hope
Thank
that
you.
you have, a great weekend and the rest of
You
the
too.
year.
Thank
Okay.
you. You as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.